Capitalism. Find a problem. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, look, it's almost crazy to see what drug pricing is. Like I said, I see from my back office what drugs cost.
Right.
Zofran is an $8 pill, but it's an $8 drug for 30-day supply, but they charge 90 for an $8 pill. So you know what I mean? This is definitely going to have to get rethought. He'll come in and disrupt the industry. You know how it goes. Everybody's
Yes.
got to drop their prices.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
First of which, thank you, man. I love this. I love what you're doing. I love all that I've heard. I mean, I can tell you love people just from, putting out information and bringing people on your show that can give value to your audience. Been an entrepreneur for 22 years. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. My dad told me, whatever I do, don't get a job. So, I graduated college. I went home, I laid on the couch, and he said, this isn't what I'm talking about. I mean, go be a business owner.
Right.
And, for my father, a lot of that reason was corporate America, big pharmaceutical industry, went through a couple mergers, 58 years old, lost his job, as a son, watching your dad have to recreate his identity is a very challenging as you get in your senior years of life.
At 58,
And
it's got to be tough.
100, especially that's what you're known for. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, hey, you're known for your career in a lot of cases. And when that goes, a lot of people don't recover just because it's a difficult challenge. And nobody wants to pay you what they paid you at 58. You know how that goes. They want them young. They want them inexpensive. They want them, that'll do more for less. And so my father was a big advocate of being a business owner. And the challenge I had was always capital. Look, businesses are great if you got money. If you don't have money, then, it's a very difficult road. So I started selling T-shirts. So that's how I know St. Louis. I was running around the country selling T-shirts at sporting events and rock concerts and anything that would gather a community of people together that I could sell my wares, right down to political events. And then about 19 years ago, I dove into partnering with individuals that are looking to make residual income through different entities like wireless companies like AT&T or internet companies. And then we started to bring customers to those different companies over the years, and we get a residual, which, prior to 20 years ago, I didn't even know what residual income was. I think I should sue my local high school for lack of education, Ken, because I think they forgot to explain that part of, hey, there's a couple ways you can make money in America: hourly wage, salary, commission, and residual. Now when I know residual, I'm completely ruined. So that's primarily what I've been doing, as we mentioned earlier, identifying industries that do have a healthy back end pay, but at the same time, the only thing that moves anybody's needle is always either savings or better service. So some people pay more because you got a better service, or some people are more driven on price and pay less and have the same quality you're used to. Then you'll get somebody to say yes for a service for sure.
Right. I found it's well, and I don't know what the next 5 years is going to look like, but the previous 5 years, the economy's been great, and savings hasn't been a defining factor for a lot of salespeople, right? You've had to been able to create some other kinds of value. You're fighting for the lowest price. Change your industry, like really quick, or find a different product that is helps your
good economies. We all overpay. You know what I mean? Good. We don't care. We're Americans. You know what I mean? We're not. Things are good every day. I overpay for everything. When '08 hit, that's when people started to really scrutinize over bills and, hey, what am I paying for, and how do we contract instead of expand? And so, to your point, when things are good, you got to find convenience is a lot of a factor. People go to the convenience store and pay more for the bottle of water than they would at Walmart. This is a 50-cent bottle of Walmart, $1.99 at the convenience store. What was the difference? It was convenient. I didn't have to.
Amazon destroyed the entire economy by making it easier to click.
That's right.
Like literally took one click away, and then bam, they're huge. So actually, convenience is huge for all those things. So you're a serial entrepreneur. You've got a couple businesses. I read something in your bio, and I'll be honest, I don't like to really dive too deep into the bios because I like just open conversation. But I saw a number of 88 people that you've helped 88 people. Can you tell us more about what that's about? Because it seemed like you're pretty proud of that in your
Yeah,
bio.
so I've mentored and coached 88 people to over $1 million in earnings. So, and done that in different partnerships over the years, some of those domestic, some of those international. But one of the things that I see myself in a lot of people, Ken, and that is, 97% of the country has a W-2. You know what I mean? I'm the 97%. I grew up in the W-2 family. My family's W-2, or, my mom, my brother, my cousins, my neighbors, all of them, work jobs, which there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. But, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's very difficult because you got to find the mentor and the coach and somebody that can help you. And so when I meet people and I see a lot of times they have that entrepreneurial spirit, they just don't know where to go.
Right.
So, I've created, different opportunities to help people that didn't require them to spend any money, not like a coaching situation, more of a, hey, here's the opportunity, here's the roadmap. If you put the
Right.
effort in and you go do what's necessary, you can make as little or as much as you want. So that's something I'm very passionate about. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think a lot of people in the next 5 years, probably because of being forced into being an entrepreneur, I think there's going to
Right.
be a change in the way that things are done based on, the gig economies here, the Uber, the
Yes.
Amazon, the Airbnbs, the list goes on, of people that said, hey, look, I think I could, maybe do it myself and make a living and have some freedom of schedule, more so maybe than financial freedom, but just more the freedom to choose what's important of my time outside
Yes.
of the 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday.
I agree with you 100%. The solopreneur over the next 5 and 10 years is going to be huge, and corporations are going to have to really try to figure out how to compete against not having a boss.
Right.
Like that's a pretty big benefit. I know when my wife was pregnant, having the kids, she was thinking about going back to work instead of opening our own company. Like, if I had to go do everything that I had to do all day and I come home and I had to hear you complain about a boss,
Right.
that can't happen, I don't think. Right? That's not going to be a healthy relationship for us. So we have to figure out, either you have to have an awesome boss that you're never going to complain about, or you're going to have to work for yourself, because I just can't handle that in my life.
Ken, I'm with you, man. My home is my sanctuary. You know what I mean? We gotta be positive, and only through good fertile ground do things grow. And we gotta create
Yes.
the good fertile ground because we're battling outside of the house every day. I
Right.
can't have that same mentality in the house. You know what I mean? I can't fight at home and fight every day in the marketplace for better opportunity.
Absolutely. So I think it's so important to be able to have that ability to at least diagnose that for yourself. Some
Yeah.
people, I mean, I've got a lot of employees, so I definitely understand, not a whole lot anymore. I like to keep it a lower number these days. Um, but they want to work. They don't want to have the responsibility or the accountability for some of the stuff that we have. So I know we talk about, for us, we have to do this, but for a lot of people, they don't want that responsibility and they don't want that. So corporate America is going to be around for a long, long time. We're going to have jobs, but I don't know what we have to do to keep employees instead of entrepreneur or their own businesses, right?
Yeah, and I think to your point, look, some people like that structure. Hey, I come in at 9, I leave at 5, and that's great. And we need, people in that situation, and they're valued. I
Right.
think what the corporate structure is going to reevaluate is the way that they look at their employees as a partner, and the employee looks at themselves as a partner, not necessarily, a cog in the wheel. You know what I mean? So if I help Ken save money in Ken's business because I'm a member of Ken's team, even though I'm an employee, I'm being looked at as a member of the team. We're here for the good times, we're here for the bad times. If
Right.
we're all contributing and growing as a person, I think that's where you're going to find some real long-term synergy, because I think the days of um, hey, I can quit and go get another job and replace the one that I have. probably won't be as prevalent as it was in the Industrial Revolution, or where you could, St.
Right.
Louis, you could quit Budweiser in one door and get hired in the next door. You
An
know what I mean?
Energizer. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They didn't even, they were so big and they needed so many people. They weren't really scrutinizing over where you came from.
Right. But today you don't even have to ask permission to get work, right? I mean, I think everybody is an Uber driver, right? They have the app. They can just start. You can just get money today, right? They can get paid today.
Instacart, Uber, Grubhub. I mean, look, Turo. They can rent your car, Airbnb. I mean, think of the things that, hey, I'm going away for a week. I'll just rent my house out while I'm away, pay for my vacation, get the tax deduction. I mean, there's so many neat ideas that are so easy for people to comprehend and do. So again, I think to your point, there's going to be, some hey to team atmosphere type conversations going on. And look, I think that's important to have. This is, you're only as good as the people around you. And if they're not the right fit, they'll be replaced. And if they are, they got to be a raging fan.
I've noticed that some trends that I've seen, and what I think most business owners are just going to have to accept, is they're going to have to be more flexible. Have you seen the trend of daily pay?
That's interesting you say that. Yeah, that's interesting. So I have people in the payroll space, and that's a conversation that's trending, and I think it's more out of need than greed. I think people are literally that hand to mouth in certain situations.
Right. Well, I think it's a whole bunch. It's trust in the company. It's I need the cash. I work today. I get paid today. It's a different kind of concept, but I'm scratching my head like, that's pretty American. That's a pretty American concept of this whole, hey, I'm going to give you 2 weeks of my time, and then in 3 weeks you're going to pay me for it, right? That's a system that we're in today that is just not all that American underneath the values. So I kind of dig it, scratching my head on how some companies can implement that. I think there's a ton of opportunity available to be had on payroll companies moving to daily pay. That's a whole new service line out there.
And look, I think technology's to a point now. Just think of, Zelling money and, Cash App, and look at all these in the last 5 years. People don't even ask for checks anymore. Hey, can you Zelle me the money? It's like, yeah, I'm still old school. Like, I like to see my checks go out. I like to see my bills come in. I like to know where my money's going.
Yes.
But I might be a dinosaur in that mentality.
All right, so you've got 88 people that you've mentored through this, navigated through from, I'm assuming, good middle class jobs to entrepreneur. Now they're, over $1 million in personal value, right, of their personal financial earnings, right? Mm-hmm. Did you only coach 88 people? Are you betting 1,000 or?
No. You know what I mean? There's thousands of people over the years that I've helped become an entrepreneur. And I think you made a great point, which is there's some people that are just looking for that additional income, where they like what they do, but inflation's going up. They got to figure out other things. They want the flexibility of working for themselves. They don't want a bunch of overhead. I think risk stops a lot of people from taking action. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, do you want to mortgage your house and start a business? Probably not. Do you want to go to your family and have that mortgage their house? Probably. Hey, mom, if you love me, you'll get a second mortgage. I'm starting a popsicle stand. I didn't come from that family, if you know what I mean. They, best of luck to you. But I think there's, again, I'm catching that trend of people going, hey, look, what else can I go do? And to be completely transparent, when did they teach you the tax system in school?
Nothing.
Yeah, 13,000 hours, kindergarten to 12th grade, public education, public tax dollars, public funded. When did they teach us something that we're all going to have to deal with from birth to grave is the tax system? 1776, the war was over, wealthy people not wanting to pay taxes. They won the war. They created the tax system. And then all of a sudden, as an educational system, don't even bring it up and teach people it. Trump showed his tax return. He paid $750, and the American public was horrified that a billionaire paid $750. What they didn't know is Bill Gates called him and said, "Why did you pay so much? You must have a horrible accountant. Like, how did they smoke you for $750? Because they understand the game of the tax system, which." play by the rules. Look, they audited him. They spent,
Right.
$25 million. He's, whether you like him or not, it's irrelevant. The point is that he followed the rules, and because he followed the rules, we're looking at him going, well, how's that possible? And it's
Right.
all possible because of a tax system.
Well, and I mean, those men did create lots of jobs that put a lot of income tax back into the system, right? They didn't pay taxes directly, but
That's
through
right.
their companies, the companies absolutely paid taxes and paid
No
substantial amount of
question.
taxes, right?
No question. I think where the idea is that people don't understand it. So let's start there. If
Right.
you're going to have to pay into this all your life, you might as well take a minute and understand it. The challenge is the CPA works for the government, so you're not going to have your certified public accountant coming in and going, Ken,
Right.
like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you form an LLC? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?
Right.
That's not their job. Their job is to plug numbers in and tell you what you owe. So I think there's a lot of that happening too, where people are now starting to come to the realization of like, okay, let me stand back, and I don't need to make $1 million, but I do need to keep more of the money I'm making, and there's obviously opportunities for that to happen. But that's an educational system. That's us educating people like what you're doing today. This was a
Right.
wake up call for me when I sat in a presentation. Like, what? Huh? Like, I never thought about that. Oh, you pay taxes on profits. What's that mean?
Right.
Deduction, 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 deduction. I
Right.
like that.
Yes, absolutely. So 88 people navigate through. Is there a common stitching that all of these 88 people have that made them get to that success point that you could see?
Yeah, for sure. And look, I wish this on nobody, but it's always the greatest motivator is when the financial gun's to your head. My greatest success stories are people that were against the wall, were losing it all, had to come out swinging. All of a sudden, everything else became secondary. Watching TV, going to the sporting event, going to happy hour, hanging out with your buddies at the lake. All of that took a back seat. And I
Yes.
think when you have that obsession focus, and a lot of times it's because of a negative situation. Hey, the economy changed. Hey, your industry got annexed. Hey, the Uber came in and you owned a bunch of cab businesses and they're no longer available. So it was always that reason. You know what I mean? What's your reason? And I think
Right.
you find that a lot of times when maybe people have kids and for the first time they become unselfish and I got to do something bigger than just feed myself. And you know what
Right.
I mean? So if I could say there was one thing, it's the purpose, it's the reason why, it's the their dream or whatever you want to talk about. For me, it was really my family. When I realized as a son that my parents financially didn't have enough money to retire, and it never occurred to me like I should be helping them.
Yes.
It was always like, yeah, it's tough for all of us. you know what I mean? I owe Sally Mae 56,000, Dad. I know all about the bills and the problem. Yeah, you know what I mean. Pass
Yep.
the spaghetti. So I think for me, prior to being married and having children, that was I got to make enough to take care of myself, and I got to have extra to go back to my parents and tell them,
Right.
look, I don't want to visit you at the funeral home talking about the trip I should have paid for, or the extra year you should have been able to enjoy your life because you raised 4 kids, lived
Right.
on less, gave us more, and now at your golden years, you're worried about the cost of tuna. I mean, that shouldn't be the case. So I think that's the factor. If there's one silver bullet, and I don't wish this on people, but I
Right.
find that sometimes it's the gut punch that makes you the better human being. It's the doctor telling you, hey, you're going to die, and next thing you
Right.
know, you lose 50 pounds. It's like, hey, what diet are you on? The death diet. Like, you know what I mean? If I don't
Yes.
change, you know what I mean, they're going to come to my funeral. So
Yeah. And I've used this quote multiple times. I think in the last 2 months, Tony Robbins says, "Hard times make strong people,"
amen.
and that is so true. It sucks that a lot of times you have to wait for some kind of major catalyst. For me, it was a health issue, right? Like, oh, this is going to be over. I
Yep.
got to get my shit together, and
Yeah.
this is going to happen again. So I need to make sure my family's in the right spot for when I do leave, because that's going to happen eventually anyway.
It's huge. I mean,
So
that's what I see. Look, a lot of times, some of those people were immigrants. And you
Yes.
know why? Because they came here with the understanding this is the greatest country in the world. There's no question they left their culture, they left their language, they left everything familiar to them, got on a plane, came to this country, had pennies in their pockets,
Right.
but they were completely convinced that they were going to start a business and be successful. They're four times more likely to be a millionaire in America if you're not born in America
Really?
because you have something to compare it to. You know, as an American, we're complaining about the flavors of ice cream at Disney World. These guys are, talking about the government taking money out of their account because you live in Lebanon, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. You're in Colombia, South America, where there's 1% rich and 99% poor. So if you're not the 1%, you're the poor percent.
Yeah, it's a wild, and I teach boxing to a lot of kids, and I'm really close to a mosque, so I've got a lot of kids from Palestine and Israel, and
Yep.
the fortitude that those kids have is phenomenal, and and this is a pretty fluent place, right? In St. Louis, I'm in a town called
Mhm.
Manchester Baldwin, and these are doctors and lawyers are their parents now, but they've fled their country and they got here. For them, I think they still see the negative from their hometown,
Yep.
but they just in America, the only thing they see is education and opportunity.
That's all.
I can get an education and I can have all this opportunity to have, and I don't know why an American today kid, my daughter for example, isn't super excited about all the opportunities that she has available, but I mean, she's taking her own artistic path, and I'm going to support the heck out of that as much as I possibly can. So, and I guess that's just a different kind of opportunity that we have to look at.
Look, I mean, we want our children to benefit. We want them to be on our shoulders. We don't want them to go through the pain we went through and all the difficulties. And as much of that we can shield, we want to. Where my experiences with the international crowd is America, it doesn't matter what your religious background is.
No.
It does if you're in Israel. In
Yes.
America, it doesn't matter what your last name is. It does in India. In
Yes.
America, it doesn't matter if you pushed a broom, you can be the CEO of the company. That's not an uncommon situation, meaning it happens in America.
Right.
It never happens in Africa. That's a zero. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
people bought the lottery, there was a 1 in 320 million chance that you could win. There's no chance in those countries.
Correct.
So I think when they come here, it's look, seeking ye shall find. It's in the Bible. If the car you drove, you never saw it until you bought it. Now it's everywhere
Right.
because your reticular activating system or whatever that is,
Yes.
you see it. So I think that's also with opportunity. You know what I mean? Because they come in, they look around. Ken, this is unbelievable. And I
Right.
can wash a car during the day, and I can drive Uber at night, and I can go to school online, deep in the middle of the night, and I can do all those things, and nobody's stopping me. Matter
Right.
of fact, they're encouraging me to do it because they make it convenient for us to do it. I just think that 50% of our country has never left. 54% of Americans don't even have a passport. So if you think of that number, that means they're not even intending on leaving.
Right.
So, unless you have a passport, there's no way you can leave. So
Right.
I just think they miss out on the opportunity to see the way people live in Bangladesh. You know what I mean? Like I've been
Right.
to Africa. Like you go to Africa, you'll come back and realize like these people living in mud puddles. Like, you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like they're fighting over chicken bones. I
And
mean,
that's
it's just
just not
like
the little tent city that nobody sees in the back corner. That's rampant.
it's shanty towns. Like, you know what I mean? As far as the eye can see, like I don't even know how they figure out how to get around. There's no signs. It's like one shanty after another. Like, hey, I'm the
Right.
97th shanty on the left. You know, you can't come visit me.
Right.
So
Well,
it
I think they
just
just stay in their pockets, right? Just like low income America, right?
yeah.
It's sad, and I think the solution to that is get people out of their communities and inject new people into communities as well. Um,
And I think the change in the educational system, I think people are rethinking university right now. I think unless you know what you
absolutely.
want to do, there's a very expensive 4 years of figuring things out. I would say, hey, take a year off and go across Europe and hang out in Asia and see the world.
I read it, and I don't know the specific numbers, but I just read an article or was talking with somebody. A kid that takes a gap year between high school and college is like significantly more likely to graduate than a kid that doesn't.
agree with that because they're not missing anything. They've already seen it, done it. You know what I mean?
Right.
They. I think. Look, I think personally, for me, I went to basic training. I was in the reserves.
Thank you
That
for your
was a
service.
huge wake out call for me. Like,
Right.
you want to go to the military? Like, I think everybody should at least experience that basic training because it really opens your eyes up to reality. And the reason that Israel is such a dominating country, they're the size of Delaware, right? China gets upset, nobody says anything. Israel gets upset, the whole world shudders into the size of Delaware. It's because everybody, women and men, all go through basic training.
Wow.
Don't matter if you're a Kennedy, don't matter if you're a Gates, you go alongside of everyone else. So it's nation first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a really interesting idea if you think about it. I mean, because they're all military trained, combat trained from the women to the men, and it's a forced situation. It's not a voluntary.
Right.
You got to go to military camp. So interesting concept if you think about it. To me, it grew me up. It made me a man. It made me look at my parents a lot differently when I came back.
Right. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, I'm glad that America isn't forced military. Right. That's I think would be a bad thing. Although in times of need, and the things that are happening over there, and I don't have a side. I don't even know. I don't even understand the nuances of what's happening over there. I just know that it's not a good thing for anybody right now.
Yeah, for sure. But the idea that, to your point, of like, hey, kids need to take a year off. Hey, go figure it out. Go look around. Go see what else is out there. It's a big world. There's a lot of things that we can all do. And in my definition of success isn't financial. I think that's that's an 80s. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like I grew up with wanting a lot of stuff because I think that's how we probably are similar in age. And to say, I had the poster and you know what I mean, all the Ferrari and Lamborghini. I don't know. Today, that's not the deal. I talk to kids today. It's like, oh no, I just want to be a nomad and a digital nomad, and you know what I mean. I'm going to hang out here and go to Costa Rica, and then I'm going to pop over to Bali, and which is
I
cool.
understand the draw, man. It doesn't sound like a horrible life at all. But I scratch my head and think, what are these kids going to do when they're 60?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If they don't have anything, but we might have a standard living wage in 50 years from now. Who knows? Right?
And remember, they'll all be together. So what you and I think is irrelevant to that generation. I look at kids on the phone and going, you guys are all on the phone. But what I realize is I'm the only odd man out in their crew. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the odd person, even though I'm looking at them like, dude, you guys are a bunch of crazies. All you do is sitting on your screen times all day long. But I'm the odd person. That's their norm. You know what I mean? So 50 years from now, that they'll be all together doing what they all do, just like we similar did with our generation. That's just the way it'll be. We're the odd people right now going, man, you should go outside and run a little bit. You should go out and smell it. I want to be playing Fortnite or wherever the hell they play these days. I don't even know what they're doing.
I mean, the kids that I know, and I've got, I got 60 kids in my class, and most of them are pretty active. Like they definitely go into that virtual world pretty deep. But I can get them out of that, and we have a good time doing running around and doing stuff. But so I don't see any difference in the kids today as the kids that when I was a kid, other than they have more video availability. Right. And if I had it, I mean, I definitely stayed up all night playing ColecoVision, right, with my paddlebox and Atari and all of those things. So I get it. Yeah. It was so miserable. And we still did it for hours. So I definitely see the draw for what they have. And I don't think it's a horrible thing. I think they're learning a lot, and they're learning a lot at breakneck speeds. So let them have that fun. I'm curious to see what the future looks like for them in their 50s and 60s, because it's going to be wildly different than what we have.
For sure. We're just going to take good care of ourselves so we can be around to see it.
I want to be there for sure to watch this weird little experiment that we have unfold in front of everybody. So what's next for you, Patrick?
Well, look, I truly believe that, as things change, I'm always somebody that loves to be at the beginning of that change and sort of a catalyst of change. I think the healthcare is probably what I'll dive into the hardest, just because I think it's going to be a very exciting time to put patients first. And I think we're going to rethink health. I think chiropractic, acupuncture, stem cell, bone marrow, IV drips. I think the list goes on of proven things that work, that we fell outside of the pharmaceutical world. So it's always been sort of an outcast, if you will, chiropractic being part of that, or other type things that I'm sure we've all experienced that I've got relief from. They actually fixed me. Like, I actually go and I do feel that I'm better after I leave.
Right.
So I think, as we rethink what health looks like in our country, I'd like to be a part of that. I like the idea of nonprofit in the healthcare space. I think we got to get the profiteering out of health. I think that's not, especially when you're sick, to think that they're making money on sick people.
Yes.
And, and we've all been sick, and life's horrible when you're sick. And don't matter if you're a billionaire, you're Steve Jobs, you know what I mean? Like, you're sick, you're sick. I mean,
Right.
There's no love in life at that point. So I think that's going to be something that I'd love to continue to, sort of lead and educate and push people out of the standard way of doing things and having them embrace a different option. I love capitalism because I said earlier in the interview that it always rights the ship.
Yes.
So one thing in America, we are the most innovative. We'll figure it out. We're resilient. We got people sitting in labs somewhere coming up with amazing concepts and ideas, and we foster that in our country. That's part of the DNA of this country. Bless you. So people come here because of that. Let them do what they want to do. And I think that will continue to happen. But that's where I'm going to keep in my lane. I'm going to keep in that. Inspiring other people to take the leap into being an entrepreneur before you're pushed,
Right.
because I think at the end of the day, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, even at your 9 to 5, because being an entrepreneur forces personal development. Like, you gotta force feed, you know what I mean? Like, you've listened to audios,
At
I'm sure.
breakneck speed, it forces personal development.
You're right. You know what I mean? Like, Think and Grow Rich. You know what I mean? The Science of Getting Rich. I mean, these are all publications that I read after school. But it was the entire mantra was look in the mirror. You're where you are because of you, not because you were in the wrong country, wrong color, wrong religion. No, it's you. And I think that in the end is the biggest wake up call. I love the Anthony Robbins quote, because in the end, it's all about you got to grow. For things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better. And I think that, to me, is the greatest part of being in this country, is you've never met a millionaire that didn't walk like a millionaire, talk like a millionaire, dress you like a millionaire. Now, if they inherited the money, probably not. But if they're self-made, the nicest human beings I've ever met were self-made human beings.
Awesome. I have what do you think about what Mark Cuban has done with the pharmaceutical industry?
Tell me a little more.
I don't know the name of the site off the top of my head. We'll throw it at the bottom. He has created a website that is selling pharmaceuticals direct to consumer, cutting out the middleman at drastic at almost no profit. Like, I think he's doing a 10% uptick across the board.
Capitalism. Find a problem. You know what I mean? Like, look, it's almost crazy to see what drug pricing is. Like I said, I see from my back office what drugs cost. Zofran is an $8 pill, but it's an $8 drug for 30-day supply, but they charge $90 for an $8 pill. So you know what I mean? This is definitely going to have to get rethought. He'll come in and disrupt the industry. You know how it goes. Everybody's got to drop their prices. In that industry specifically, because if aspirin's this price and you're selling at that price, it's the same. If you're selling gas at $2 a gallon, you don't really got to advertise.
It's dumbfounding. I wrote an app for medical adherence rates. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago, and what blew my mind was the HIV drug for the first responders. The cost and what they charge for it it's a $30,000 shot. Is what the insurance is paying, right?
Wow.
And the cost is not near that. And the chemotherapy drugs was huge, right? The markup on those was just...
Chemotherapy is the only drug that's commissionable to the doctor. It's a commissionable drug.
Yeah.
They get commission. Yeah. So then when they subscribe that drug, they get a commission.
Yes.
I mean,
I promise you, the biggest feature that they wanted in that Adherence app was to notify the salesperson of their commission when they got it, because they wanted it, because it was a huge commission, right? To the sales reps, everybody involved. Fixing people of cancer pays really, really well, or not even fixing people of cancer, but treating their symptoms.
Treating people, yeah.
Yes.
The cure is irrelevant. That's
Yes.
that, you know what I mean. You're 100% right. So here's what I love. I love this platform. I love us bringing things up. Hopefully waking somebody up. Hopefully somebody like, what, the tax industry, I never thought about it. All the other things were sort of, we're saying things that I think if somebody could catch one thing that you and I talked about could change the way that they move forward in their life, especially when you're talking about things that affect all of us: taxes, healthcare, entrepreneur,
Right.
things that, again, you're going to have to experience if you live in this country.
So I have one last question for you, and I don't know if it's going to be an easy one or not. So, I mean, I've dealt with almost every industry under the sun, being a programmer, web developer, sales engineer for IT. Medical and finance are two industries that I step to the side for. The education and the process and the liability involved in those specific industries, even for me, I'm a pretty risk tolerant guy, the risk is just really high. Right? I don't see MD on your name or doctor in front of it, but you're pretty heavily into the medical industry. If somebody has a medical idea and they're trying to move forward with it, but they don't have any medical background, right? How do they get the confidence to reach out to somebody like you or other VCs and say, hey, I think I have this medical product or service that would be awesome, but I'm not a doctor. I really don't. Like, how would somebody even vet an idea today?
Trade shows. There's so many people that are in this space that are open to ideas. They would welcome it. Everybody sits in a meeting. If you stay in the community, you'll find someone that would definitely nurture that along, or at least give you the environment to grow. Trade shows for sure.
So get off your butt, go to the trade shows.
That's it.
Great place to start. I love that tip. I go to small business expos, almost every one of them across the country. I just go to those to hang out and meet small business owners. So
Hey, I know you got a hard stop. Thank you,
yes.
thank you, Ken, and looking forward to future opportunities to share.
Absolutely, Patrick. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope to talk to you soon. That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line